If you grew up with a close sibling, you probably had to share everything from clothes to toys and maybe even sweets. Well, that's not dissimilar to these two. And that's because these siblings share skeletons, engines, and interiors. But there are some crucial and often overlooked differences that will make one better suited to you than the other. Now, while at a glance these siblings look quite similar, if you look closer, you'll spot that this Discovery Sport rides higher, so it's easier for access and it's longer, which means it has more legroom as well, although we'll show you that in more detail in just a moment. But first, let's jump into the front seats. New car smell. In fact, this one is so new, it hasn't even been registered to a number plate yet. But that does mean that this Discovery Sport interior is right up there with the latest stuff, and it's really close to what the Evoque offers. In fact, it's basically a carbon copy up front here. You get the same lovely mix of materials, everything's really soft touch and well made, and it feels really high quality. And you even get the same digital instrument cluster and the same slightly curved infotainment screen. Now this is very, very nice to look at, and it's very simple to use as well, but it's definitely not the slickest. It gets the job done though, and you also get wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as well. Now in the interior, there is a lot of room up front. We've got so much storage space. We've got a wireless mat down here to charge your phone, and we've also got two chunky cup holders here. And if you lift this armrest as well, you'll find loads of storage space underneath as well, and an extra USB-C port to go with the pair up front there. You also have in the doors very, very thick pockets. You can definitely get a lot in those doors. And I have to say the seating position is nice and commanding. It feels very SUV. Oh yeah, and the steering wheel, it's identical to the one you get in the Evoque. Even the badge in the middle is the same size, and you get the same buttons on a roller switch. It's a lovely place to sit, and it makes you think, why is this so much cheaper than that? All right, there are some things that lift this Evoque interior above that of the Discovery Sport. Firstly, in this top grade HSE, we've got an electric adjustment for the steering wheel, so you don't have to use the manual one you use in the Discovery Sport. And also, the switches for your rear and front windows are in a more ergonomic position here on the door rather than up top like they are in the Discovery. Plus, I feel like I'm sat more in a typical car because this whole body sits lower, and so I feel slightly lower on the road. It feels, I guess, a little bit more sporty. But there are some negatives, and those come in the form of space. You have less room. For example, down here, it's a slightly narrow access. And while here we've got two halves to our armrest, you do have much less space down there, and you've only got one USB-C port. Plus, you can't remove the cup holders. Okay, the glove box is just as big as it is in the Discovery Sport, but the door pockets are much smaller, and that's partly due to the fact that the speakers in this car are way bigger. You've got a more powerful system in the Evoque, so it sounds better, but it eats into some of your storage space. Oh, and another reason to get the HSE trim for the Evoque is because you get this lovely panoramic sunroof. And in the back, you have an all right amount of space. I've got good headroom above me here. I've got good knee and foot room as well. It's no limo in here, but the seats are quite wide, and the middle seat is pretty good as well. You also get a USB-C port each for passengers here. And if you fold down the middle bit here, well, then you are greeted with a nice wide armrest and two cup holders. And if you're carrying a baby in the back with a baby seat, well, the ISOFIX bar is easily accessible from under this plastic cover here. So it's pretty nice in the back of the Evoque. Now, the higher roofline of the Discovery Sport definitely makes it easier to get in and out of. And then once you're in, well, there's clearly a little bit more knee and foot room as well, and no shortage of headroom above. Plus, the seats are just as wide, and in the middle, you also get an armrest, but you get an extra thing here to go with your cup holders. You get a little storage area, which maybe will be useful for children's colouring in pencils, for example. In front of me here, you've got two vents just like the Evoque, and you've got two USB-C ports, but you also gain heater or climate controls, so you can change the temperature in the back. Oh yeah, and the ISOFIX bars are in easy reach. There's no cover, but they are right there. So yeah, this feels like the more convenient family car.
If you don't go for the plug-in hybrid Discovery Sport, you also gain a pair of third row seats which fold out of the boot floor. They're small, but totally fine for young kids.
And the biggest reason you might choose one over the other is going to be the boot. So we thought we'd have a boot off. So let me open both of them. Discovery Sport here has a manual tailgate. The Evoque has an electrically assisted one, and straight away you can see our Discovery Sport has more room. The boot is longer and it is wider, and that's also true for the underfloor storage on these plug-in hybrid models. You just get more in the Discovery Sport, and I can prove it with our suitcase. If I put it in here, you'll see it's got plenty of room around it, but if I put it in the Evoque, you'll spot that it's a bit more snug. It goes in, but there's definitely less room. And if we bring in our dog, well, he's definitely going to want to go into the Discovery Sport. Isn't that right, Rocky? Because firstly, it's got a lower floor. The car is higher, but the floor is easier for him to get into. He has more space, and it's got a retractable parcel shelf as well. Whereas in the Evoque, well, this thing here needs to be removed. So he has an easier time, and so do I. So behind the wheel of this Discovery Sport, it does feel every bit like the SUV it basically is. Okay, yes, the powertrains you get with this aren't all all-wheel drive, but all of them are punchy and capable, especially this plug-in hybrid one. It rides really nicely, it's comfortable, it's calming if you want it to be, and it's nice and refined as well. Plus, because you sit a little higher in this car, you've got an excellent view of the road around you, and if you're going backwards, there are plenty of cameras to help you see when you're reversing. So it is a very easy, very comfortable and very nice car to drive. You do get a bunch of off-road modes as well. This is a Land Rover after all. Most buyers of this car rarely look into them, but if you do want to use them, if there are tricky conditions outside, it's nice to know they're there. All right, now we're behind the wheel of this Evoque, and I have to say it feels very similar initially, but there are some minor differences. You sit a bit lower, so it feels more like a normal car, although the view is still very good, and I still get all of those reversing cameras to help me see when I'm going backwards as well. It just feels more car-like, especially when you're going around corners as well. There's just this feeling that it's more road biased, and that's going to be a good thing for most Evoque buyers. That being said, there are off-road modes in this car, the same ones you get in the Discovery Sport, but I think even fewer Evoque customers are going to bother looking at them, and they're just going to enjoy how comfortable, refined and nice this thing is to drive down the road. And of course, with the same engines offered with this car, it's just as punchy and just as effortless. All right, so we've discovered that the Discovery Sport is best suited to families or people with dogs, and that this Evoque is best suited to those who aspire to live that Range Rover lifestyle. But if you fancy something from a different range, check out the SUVs up here.